issues on. Yeah. John, is it all right to hand over to you just to give an overview of what you're seeing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Don't die on us.
Yeah. It's early in the morning with hay fever. Never mind. Yeah. So, well, I mean, if I sort of start sort of generally with what clients are saying and what business is experiencing, as far as I can see, I mean, recruitment issues still remain, particularly obviously in skilled areas, which, I mean, if people need to recruit, the one thing they're not able to do with the people they can't recruit is take the business forward as far as they want. So that's still an issue. The cost pressure on margins, very much so. I think certainly in professional services, but I think maybe more widely, there was an awful lot of hiring out of COVID and competing for people in a candidates market, and that's undoubtedly baked in some cost, which of course, as the inflation merry-go-round is slowed, is harder to pass on. So, I mean, one of the things that's going to do is drive a requirement for more efficiency, and certainly interest rates is still an issue. I mean, speculation today they won't go down in August because inflation is at 2% rather than 1.9. I thought the funny thing was it's all Taylor Swift's fault. Is there nothing that woman isn't responsible for? To all the people putting their prices up at Taylor Swift concerts have pushed him. I mean, it is incredible, isn't it? The serious economists are talking about the impact of Taylor Swift on inflation. Uncertainty, I think, is now less of a factor. I mean, we know what government we've got for the next 5 years, unless they do something extraordinarily strange. And I think uncertainty going down means stability going up. I mean, obviously, there are the employment pressures you've just mentioned, Sue. And that's going to make people much more careful about, I think, not just how the induction process goes. I think it's going to make it far more interesting as to who gets hired in the first place. There's not like you can hire someone and suck it and see. It's going to be, if we're going to have to deal with employee rights from day one, we better get getting the right people in the first place. And obviously, there is the thought that employee rights will be further advanced later on. I think generally people are sort of cautious but not fearful. The economy, I think people are seeing it becoming more benign. Growth prospects for this year and next have been uplifted by the IMF. Doesn't mean they're right, but that other people are saying the same thing. I think the interest rates will travel down, and as that happens, obviously a number of things happen. One of which is disposable income is released to the consumer, so that's going to be good for things. I mean, there are with the last 6 months of weather we've had. Some parts, some clients, react to the weather not being great. I mean, hospitality and the suppliers of hospitality would be one of them. We can only hope that that things kick in weather-wise for the rest of the year and get the economy moving again, because I think it will. As far as what we're seeing, we are, I guess, about 25% of our business is involved in property in one way, shape, or form, mostly commercial, but some residential. Residential isn't exactly running away with itself. You'd expect more activity this time of year. I suspect that is partly, again, to do with interest rates. There's activity, but there's also fierce competition for that activity from some more factory-orientated businesses, and it'd be interesting to see. A little bit of special pleading, what happens to professional indemnity rates going forward, because a lot of those factories can't actually produce quality. What they do produces quantity. So if you end up not owning your house and you use somebody cheap, we heard it here first. The commercial property side, far more significant to us, is ticking over. There is stuff happening, but it's not running away. I mean, investment is still going on. People are still having to transact. Leases still need to be renewed, but it's not boom times. It's not buoyant. But it's not dreadful either. M&A, which obviously I personally get involved in, this is not an advert for BPE, it's simply a fact, are extremely busy. That is not, I think, common. across many firms in the country, and the corporate finance teams which support that activity in the wider market. So accountancy-based firms, others. Deals take a lot longer to do, a lot more fall over, and there are less of them to start with. So we are locally very busy, as in locally in my office, because we have 2 or 3 very big things going on with long-term clients, and we have the filler activity and the important activity around that as well. I can't see beyond September, because I never can. I'm hoping that the general market picks up into the second half of what will be our financial year, and into the last quarter of the calendar year. But yeah, it's not to say things aren't happening. Obviously, people still want to buy and sell things, and it may be that a more benign economy, it may be that stability now and interest rates beginning to drift down will stimulate that activity further. It'll be interesting to see what the guys at CROWE think about that, because obviously they're exposed to that market as well, and indeed Impulse. So that's that. I mean, yeah, it is steady as she goes. It's not exciting. It's not yeehaw, but you know, it's not. It's not depression. It's not Y2K. It's not or the dot-com bubble. It's not any form of slump. It is just quieter than we'd normally want it to be. And everything else, people still die. People still get divorced. And people still sue each other, so that's nice. So all that works, but it's, but that none of that's particularly cyclical.
Yeah, I was to say, I think we've seen sort of people who are looking to sell, wanting to get things away pre-budget kind of thing. So there are some pressures, I think, to get things away, but it is quieter, I would suggest. Just, I think probably because of the election, and that sort of uncertainty, really. So that's what happens with uncertainty, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, well, hopefully now then, I mean, you might like it or you might not like it, but at least you kind of know the direction of travel. So, and yeah, I was like the inflation stuff. I learned there was core inflation and inflation. So while inflation was down to 2%, core inflation was still at 6%. So that was the indication they were saying that the Bank of England wouldn't drop the interest rates into the autumn. And there you go, you always learn something new on the BBC.
Yeah. But we're still blaming Taylor Swift, right?
Yes, we're still Taylor Swift is absolutely responsible. Yes,
it must be that. It has nothing to do with the war in Ukraine or anything like that. Yeah, it's Taylor Swift. But I have to say, I couldn't. She seems an extremely nice young lady. I can't think of a single song that she's done. But my daughter did go to see her for free, so there you go.
Well, you must know "Shake It Off." Everyone knows "Shake It Off."
I mean, certainly sound like a secret Swiftie, John.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that I'm in some sort of it's like sort of self-flagellation. I'm making myself not listening to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You might have put a dent in her 1 billion turnover.
Yeah.
but only 1, 5, isn't it? I heard.
Is she happy? Or she's bloody happy.
Is there anything from anybody else on John's, what you're seeing, or?
I've got a question for John, if I may.
Yeah.
John, you touched on mergers and acquisitions. What's the current payback or multiplier that people making an acquisition are looking for? 3 years, 5 years?
I don't think you can generalize on that. I think is almost. I mean, well, if you're PE/VC, it's always been 3 to 5 years, but nearer 5. I think in terms of general M&A, why are they buying the business in the first place? Is it? I mean, so we have a company on a buy and build strategy. That's about, in the end, that's about driving a share price. So we have. We are selling a very large business. They're expecting to another very large business, and they're expecting the combined business to considerably. It's the sum of the part, the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. It's also share price driven. So there's so many factors. I'm not sure I could generalise, or it would be helpful if I tried to.
Thank you.
Yeah, anybody else? No? Well, actually follow on then from that with you, Max, then in terms of impulse capital and kind of the things that you're looking at and what's coming out in the market from as far as you can see.
Well, yeah, look, and thanks for having me. I've made a bit of presentation, but what? Hello?
Yeah, I can put it on mute. It's fine. Yeah, you can share your slides if you want.
Yeah, we'll do. But no, John, I agree with everything that you say. First of all, interest rates aren't coming down in August. I think they will trickle down. I think the market that I'm in is, do you know what, John? If you don't invest in it now, well, Nick will invest in it, and Nick, if you don't do it now, Jenny will. And it's about sourcing the right funding to make sure that the numbers stack, to make sure that it's a worthwhile investment, and that's what we do at Impulse. So let me share my screen then. See how I do that. Okay. Right.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, look, guys, and Suzanne, thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It's the first time that I've spoken at one of these events, so forgive me for my nerves. But look, I wanted to, I think, start by talking about myself just for a moment, just to tell you who I am, what my story is, where I come from, so you can relate to what I do, why I do what I do now. So who invests into property here? I can't see everyone. Just give me a yes or a no. I can't see. Okay, I can't see you, but
there are some hands up. There are some hands up. Yeah.
Good. All right, fantastic.
And you've obviously got Robert Hitchens. So.
All right, good. Yeah, excellent. Well, my talk today is more about sharing some positive numbers behind investing into property, whether you do it or not. But I've also designed it in the way that if you haven't invested into property and you would like to, then this actually might be what it may look like for you. Okay, so but as I mentioned, firstly, I'll introduce you guys who I am and what I do. I stumbled across a quote from Richard Branson just yesterday, actually, which was, "Don't take myself seriously, but I do take my work serious." I love life. I love chatting to people, meeting people. I love what I do. It's really, really great fun. But when it comes down to it, I'm really quite passionate about finance and everything that attracts. I'm a 33-year-old married man, father of two from Cheltenham, went to Borden Hill and Bournemouth. A passion for finance and cars and things. And actually the cars got me into finance. I did 3.5 year stints at both Lexus and then Mercedes-Benz. And doing that and understanding the finance, I've always dreamt of thinking bigger. So, how do I get involved in like funding a plane or a skyscraper or a yacht or military equipment, and that really was the birth of Impulse Capital. We can and are regulated by the FCA that we can fund any type of B2B funding, but specializing in all types of property funding. So we've joined a network. We've got a team of people behind us that have over 100 years worth of experience in property finance. So if I don't know the answer to it, I've got a team of people behind me that can go and help me find that answer. But we are blessed with the opportunity of working with high net worth property individuals. We have 3 million, just shy of £3 million worth of funding in application. We're waiting on those planners and solicitors and everyone to start talking to each other before spades hit the floor, and then those developers can put spades in the floor and start developing. So we're doing really, really well. But big dreams for Impulse Capital. We've been signed off by our network that we can now hire another 119 commercial finance brokers. So we are very, very excited for the future. But as I mentioned, I wanted to just talk to you today just about a couple of different investment opportunities. There are many different investment strategies, but I want to just talk to you about two of the most popular, if you want. So I believe the most popular is HMO, so House of Multiple Occupancies. And again, just to tell you this if you're a first-time investor and you'd like to get involved, some of the banks that we use are Shawbrook, Octopus, Aldermore, Paragon, Together, and MT Finance. And there are only 2 banks in the country that offer an 80% loan to value. So if a house is, I've got an example actually of one that we've looked after, 5-bed HMO is £250,000. You would only need to put a £50,000 deposit in. So my example and the client that we've looked after worked out really, really well for him. Mortgage and bills per month were £2,000. He has 5 rooms at £750 a month, totaling 3,750, profit of 1,750. If you had 10 of those properties, you'd have £17,500 in profit. It's a great retirement plan investing into one of these because, of course, your tenants are paying off the mortgage as you go on, and that you're faced with a really horrible scenario. Do you sell your properties and cash out, or do you just retain that £17,500 profit per month? But even if you didn't have 10, if you had 4 properties at £250,000, what would that make you, ladies and gentlemen? Anyone? Be millionaires at retirement. Plus, thank you. I'll try and make this as interactive as possible. But of course, yes, your capital appreciation over time is certainly going to help increase that. This client that we looked after had investor involvement where he only put £25,000 in of his own money. So you pay them back. He agreed that he would pay them back 10% over the 3 years, paying them back £763.88 a month, leaving you with 9, 6, 8, and 12 true profit. After your 3 years is up, your profit increases to £1,750, and then of course you've got full ownership of that property against your retirement plans. Now, some of the best opportunities with HMOs are those ones. Yes, you can buy them tenanted, but always look out for the ones that are empty and that need a bit of love. So, because you can go in, you can add your ensuites, your new carpets, doors, boilers, furniture, make it really, really appetizing, and then charge more for per room, giving you more return. But of course, because you've raised the value of that property, you can refinance it, you can tenant that property, you'll earn your passive income, but you've also got your deposit to move on to your next one. So this is why HMO for me is really quite an exciting prospect. Certainly finding those ones that are empty is a great tip for this. Just mentioned all of that. There we are. Some of the things that the lenders want to know: how much revenue the property will produce at 100% tenanted, and how will you maintain it? How would you keep it tenanted, whether you do it yourself or you hire a company that specializes in this? What the EPC rating of the property is, and is it a fixed or variable rate? Typically, as an investor, if you want a fixed rate, and of course we can refinance you every sort of 3 to 5 years onto the rates as they change. HMOs, so that's a really good one. Of course, since COVID though, holiday lets really, really popular. Not many people wanting to leave, but again, slightly different because they generate more money, and I'll get to that in a moment. But again, some of the banks that we use together: Cumberland, Hampshire Trust, Quantum, Castle Trust, and Mercantil Trust. Has anyone heard of these banks? No?
No, I haven't. No.
That's good. Typical, I can get 75% loan to value, which is the best in the country at the moment. There are 7 banks in the country that offer it, and the best rate is 6.9% today. And they'll lend up to £5 million to purchase a holiday let. So have a really good example, again, of another one that we were involved with. 400 holiday let, 75% loan to value, was £100,000 deposit. It was a beautiful beachside property on the coast of Cornwall, which is a 4-bedroom, and mortgage and bills, which is the cleaning and maintenance, was about £3,500. Typically holiday let, certainly down in Cornwall. It's Thursday to Sunday are the best days of the week. They're usually 100% occupied. £1,000 a night generates £16,000 a month. So your approximate return at fully booked for the month is £12,500, which is again another really exciting and almost sound investment for immediate passive income, and again a really good one for your retirement plan. this isn't the property, but I thought I'd just, and I don't mean if you've not been away on holiday or if you're thinking about going away, I can't recommend the coast of Cornwall enough. There's some lovely pictures here of some really nice properties. As you can see, very, very nice.
That was Nick's house, wasn't it?
Okay, so just quickly, why Impulse Capital? So who we are, what we do. So if you've everyone's probably applied for a personal loan through their bank, have they? Yes, no.
Yeah.
I have. It was really easy. You do it through the app on your phone. It takes minutes. It's like applying for a credit card can take minutes. If you're applying to buy, or if you're applying to purchase or invest into property, and you apply through a tier 1 high street bank, it can take up to 6 to 8 weeks to respond. I think if Mr. Bracey is still in the room and I can't see him, he was waiting 12 months. And if he's still here, say yes or no, or I'm wrong or right.
Yeah, Mitch is still here.
You're right, and it's actually still ongoing. I've had another email from the solicitor today, so it's actually 13 months.
Oh,
That is
blimey.
really scary.
And the loan to value is like we're borrowing 20% of the value of the site we already own, so it's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wish I met you earlier, Mitch, because we present indicative terms on the table in less than 24 hours and sometimes on the same day. We've got over 300 lenders on our panel, so we can guarantee the best rates and terms for you and your project. We save business owners time and money, and we only use challenger banks. I go back to my my holiday let slide. I asked you if you've seen them or heard of them. The majority, or the 4 of you at the bottom, certainly were shaking your heads. Some of them you would never have heard of, and that's because they aspire to be the big boys. They aspire to be Lloyds and NatWest and Barclays, but they're not there yet. So they can be competitive. So they can do better rates. They can offer better arrangement fees, exit fees, and these are things that we don't necessarily see at the very beginning. And it's very important that if it isn't me and you are looking, do speak to a commercial finance broker to make sure that you are definitely getting the best deal. I think average amount of time and research you would need to put in to get to that bottom line figure is about 60 hours of reading up and studying and things. So yeah, please just let us do all the hard work for you. Our process is slick and easy. The final thing that I wanted to just say is not necessarily to do with property or investment, but they're just 4 points that I picked up recently that really sort of it got my attention, and I just wanted to share them with you. So first thing, you need to reframe your thinking to how and not won't. Instead of saying that won't work, ask how could that work for me? And don't be taken down by problems before they even exist. Not everyone, second point, not everyone will support your drive. Those who say it cannot be done should not interrupt the ones doing it. And if someone hasn't achieved what you want, don't listen to their advice. Point number 3, 99% of people who hate their job keep it out of fear of uncertainty, discomfort, and failure. But fear makes fools of all of us, and everything that you want is on the other side. And just finally, if it's working, there we go. I was at a junction the other day, and where Tesco's is on my right, and you've got the care home with the curved sort of glass fascia at the front there, and there was a woman sat at the very top window with tubes coming out, and I was thinking to myself, crikey, if that's the end of that lady's life and she can't go out and do the things that she wanted to do, if that's me and I get to that point and I haven't jumped at opportunities and I haven't met or spoke to that person or done that thing that I wanted to do, don't leave empty what ifs hanging on your last breath. You won't regret taking a chance on yourself. Even if you fail, you will regret not knowing. So not part of investment, not part of property, but I just really wanted to share it with you because it really struck me. So, but thank you very much for listening.
Really can see that. I've basically got 2 slides of content, so just bear with me. Just to give you a sense of where things are going, and obviously some of this may change with the change of government. At the moment, the requirements to report on sustainability in the UK are mostly about climate. I'll touch on Europe if we need to, but Europe is quite different. The current arrangements are under the Department of Trade and Business, and essentially, I think it's around about a 30 million turnover requirement, which requires you to have a streamlined environmental and climate report. There are 3 criteria. There's a turnover, a balance sheet, and a head count. And if you trigger 2 out of 3, then you need to produce that in your accounts. And as auditors, we have the pleasure of reviewing that. It's technically other information, so we don't audit it, but we check that it looks sensible. That's basically your own greenhouse gas emissions, which are known as Scope 1 and 2, which is what you use and what you purchase in terms of energy, and your travel, business travel, Scope 3. If you have premises and you fall under a certain size, then you also have to complete an ESOS requirement. That's absolutely nothing to do with accounts or annual reports. It's government regulation. It's very similar to the greenhouse gas disclosures, except you're also disclosing the source energy uses, and those regulations have been in place for a number of years, and they're tightening to the extent that you now have to start to put energy reduction plans in place. And I think the last piece in the jigsaw is for the larger organizations. There's a requirement to report against something called TCFD, which, as you can see on the right, is Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. That there are 4 pillars to that report: governance, strategy, risk management, and metrics. It only applies to listed companies under the listing rules or large private companies. So currently 500 staff, 500 million of turnover, but expect that to change. So if you look at the little red bit in the middle, you may think that TCFD is new, but it came out in 2018, and it will be replaced shortly by a new IFRS standard. So sustainability reporting is coming under the orbit of financial accounting. So I guess it's growing up in the sense that it's another IFRS that you have to comply with. There are currently 2 IFRS standards, S1 and S2. S1 relates to sustainability, S2 relates to climate. Somewhat strangely, we expect S2 to be adopted first because it's going to replace TCFD, and the department has signaled that they originally said they would come out in July as to how that would be adopted. That's been pushed back to Q1 next year. So my guess is this will only apply from financial year ending 2025 at the earliest. But they're not just adopting IFRS, they're also going to include in the same time, and this is part of the rationale for the delay, transition plans, or the recommendations of the Transition Plan Task Force, or TPT, as you can see on the right, which I'll touch on in a minute. So if you are at the larger end, you will have to report more. And what I'd say is the European regulations have got lower thresholds than the 500 staff and 500 million. So my money is on the thresholds coming down. The threshold in Europe is 2 out of 3 of a 25 million euro balance sheet, a 50 million turnover, and 250 staff. So as you can see, with Europe, it's capturing much smaller private enterprises. And in Europe, there is a timeline for small and medium enterprises to be caught as well. I can go a little bit deeper into Europe if needed, based on questions. But if you've got a a legal entity in Europe, then there's an awful lot of regulation heading your way if you above those thresholds, and it's much broader than climate. It covers each of the branches of environment, social, and governance. So I'm just going to finish off this page just by mentioning a little bit more about Transition Plan Task Force. So this was a UK Treasury-backed recommendation that larger firms, larger LLPs and companies should publish a transition plan. The recommendations were issued in October, and they're going to be swept into the IFRS adoption. What does that mean? So if you think about the greenhouse gas disclosures being what is my carbon footprint, this is about how are you going to get to net zero, and don't just tell me, show me. So this is going to be regular updates on progress against targets, and it's going to be public. So that's what's coming. As we said, it's probably going to start with the listed space and the larger private enterprises, but as I'll come on to with my next slide, I think commercial pressure is going to apply as well. Final one, if you don't have enough acronym soup at this point, there is a joke going around. I must admit my sense of humor may be a little bit limited, but there's a joke that if you take any 4 letters, they will be a sustainability standard. So TNFD is exactly the same as TCFD, except it applies to nature and biodiversity. And this is out there, but it's completely voluntary at this point. But it gives you a direction of travel, and it aligns to the European regulations where biodiversity is one of the things that is captured in the disclosure requirements. So before I move on to the more commercial side of things, was there any question? Are there any questions, or people kind of still reeling from the acronym soup?
No.
I think you're all right. Yes, I think we're all still
Okay.
trying to work out the acronyms.
Yeah, so I think that's the backcloth of what's happening with regulation. As you can see, the Labour government is slightly more committed to sustainability than the previous government in terms of the creation of an energy company. So we can expect, I suspect, them to be a little bit closer to what the Europeans are doing. The Americans are obviously a very large economy and probably not going to change in this direction for a while, looking at what's happening over there. In terms of commercial pressure, I think what we're also seeing is firms choosing to do some work on sustainability even when they're not required to. And you might say, well, why would you do that? Well, there are, I guess, 2 camps. One is people who see that there's commercial advantage from doing so, either because of the products and services they sell or could sell, or a kind of purpose-driven stance because of who they are and what they do. I get the other commercial reason why people are starting to do this is because of where they sit in somebody else's supply chain, and larger organizations are kind of making it a pay-to-play kind of item, in the sense that a little bit like I'm sure many of you have come across ISO standards, ISO 9000 on quality, ISO 14000 on the environment. Large organizations, basically, their procurement processes drive compliance. So my money is on a lot of firms adopting these kinds of approaches commercially long before the regulations hit them. And if we've got a minute at the end, I'll talk to you about CROWE, but that's where we are. We have no real requirements to do very much, but 25% of our activity is in the not-for-profit and social purpose sector, and we get about 15 to 20 due diligence requests on sustainability and diversity and inclusion per month. So that gives you a sense of, where this is heading. So what's on this slide, this is just a suggestion as to how you go about trying to work out what to do and why. There's a tool called a materiality assessment. It's actually been adopted by the European regulations, but that's not a reason not to use it. It essentially helps you to look at all the different ES and G topics in terms of environment, social, and governance. Map them, work out which ones are a priority to your stakeholders and why. And it gives you permission to pick 2 or 3 things and do them well. It gives you permission to not do the other 40 and explain why, which I think is quite important, because otherwise you're in danger of trying to boil the ocean with many sustainability issues. So I think trying to understand what your priorities are and why, trying to articulate that to your stakeholders, including your own staff, is quite important. Coming up with a plan, agreeing where you need to be in terms of ambition. Where do you need to be versus your peers commercially? You want to be ahead of the pack, in the middle of the pack, or at the back, in simple terms, and then how to articulate and explain that to people. And that's kind of a lot of what we've been helping people with, is trying to flesh out, why am I doing this? What's important and where to focus? Because most organizations haven't got the resources to do a huge amount. So it's really about making that effort count. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, if we've got a few minutes, I can flip to the last couple of slides, which was just to give you a sense of what we're doing at CROWE. That's helpful. I think you'll find all of this on our website. We've gone through an exercise of identifying 4 things that we want to do, which obviously means there's a long list of things we're not doing. So net zero is one of them. We've made a commitment to science-based targets, which I think is on the next slide. Equality, diversity, and inclusion is one of the 4 things, which you'll see highlighted here. Communities, and then social mobility. So those are the 4 things we're focusing on under the umbrella of sustainability, and we're not trying to do anything else. That's more than enough. And then, as you can see here, here's our science-based target commitment in terms of net zero, which I can talk to you about if you're interested, but it's an interesting process to go through. And the business case for us in terms of our executive team was, if I just stop sharing for a second.